Welcome to Redvee TV's Instant Fan Reaction, proudly supported by Chapel House for the 2023 season. Following St Helens' 30 points to 18 victory over the St George Illawarra Dragons in the NRL Pre-season challenge, the Battle of the Redvee won, Kevin.
We certainly did, didn't we? I thought it was a great game. I think both teams acquitted themselves quite well. Couple of things to kind of pick out, but you know what? For a Saturday morning, 9 o'clock kickoff, what a way to start the weekend.
Yes, and listen, Saints started like a house on fire, didn't they? You seen James Roby prior to kickoff reading the riot act in the change room, but everything about this squad is professional. We've took the game seriously. We're using it as an ideal preparation for that World Club Challenge game next week, and those opening 10 minutes showed the best of Saints.
Yeah, definitely. As you say, we hit it with the intensity that you expect from Saints. We've got a process that we go through where we don't kind of panic, although we'll mention towards the end of the game later on. But that first 10 minutes, you lay a platform and you kind of lay, this is what we're going to come at you with. If teams can deal with that, and we probably see a different proposition next week, then fair enough. But we lay our stall out. And as you say, we started so well.
Yeah. Opening try of the game, James Roby with a little dab through. We've seen it so many times during his career. And Lewis Dodd, freshly back from that Achilles injury that he suffered last year. I know he played a little bit against Widnes, but putting a marker down by getting on the end of it. I spoke in the pre-game show. Would he play in the halves? And I think there you go. There's the decision. Your halves next week are Johnny Lomax and Lewis Dodd. Lewis Dodd looked really good today. Good kicking game. Eyes open, taking the ball onto the line. Great start for the Saints. And then we double the lead through Jack Wellesby. And again, quick thinking from the scrum, ball out wide, and an absolute little wonder ball flick out from Tommy Makinson under pressure to send Jack in to make it 10-0.
Yeah, that's it. Lewis looked like he'd never been away. You can just see he oozes class. He's so clever for somebody so young as well. As you say, to just get his head up, have a look what's on. Don't just turn around and think, right, well, it's going to go to the next man, or I'm going to play a one cutout ball. He's putting it over the top to his winger for his winger then to obviously give it back inside, to be alive to a rubber kick. Sign of a good player. Listen, he can create, but also being aware that others may well take that mantle on, like James Roby did. I thought he was tremendous. You mentioned Johnny Lomax there. I thought Johnny was a little bit below his usual par. But I think that hit out will do him good for next week. Because obviously, he's not going to be happy with a couple of errors that he came up with. But we know that Johnny Lomax is class. We know that he uses class. And we know that, listen, they stick. And that's a bigger score than 30 on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking this, Johnny Lomax, for Johnny Lomax levels, was way below his best today. And Lomax will be his own worst critic, I'd imagine. And he won't have been happy with that performance today. But the bonus for me is you don't see Lomax have two bad games in a row. I'm watching that thinking Lomax is going to be the best player on the field next week. And it's just a case of getting them cobwebs out the system. We let the Dragons back into the game, didn't we, after we went 10-0 up? I was worried after 15 minutes when they started coming back into it. It was almost like we'd put a lot into the first 10 or 15, and it felt at the time whether we were just going to run out of steam a little bit and errors started creeping in. That didn't turn out to be the case. But is it fair to say that the two Dragons tries that they scored in the first half both came off our own mistakes? The first one was Connie rushing out of the line and leaving a huge hole. He did that at the start of last season, didn't he? Defensively, he started off poor, but then got his eye in over the year. And he did the same tonight with that first try. And then obviously the second from the Dragons coming off the back of Percy spilling the ball in our own half.
Yeah, that's it. I thought just our edges, there were a couple of probably too many errors that they're going to need to tighten up for next week. But again, as we've said, we'll look at that and they'll be thinking, I can't do that again. I can't do that again. I said it in the Redvee show before the game that it was Connie's shirt to lose. I think Connie going forward was a handful for the Dragons. I think obviously there's one or two things that we can patch up there. But it's pre-season. It's, as the Aussies call it, a trial game. Am I too worried about that? Not at the minute. As long as they're fixed up, and they will be. We've got a week to prepare for this next game. So the likes of Connie and Mark Percival making one or two errors, I'm not going to start getting too het up about it, mate.
Yeah, listen, if you're going to concede points, you want to be conceding the points off the back of just errors. You don't want to have, like, you're not conceding through defensive shape or glaring holes in your line defense. And you can fix mistakes, as you've just said. And I felt throughout that game, our defence was absolutely solid. Even the late try we conceded at the end, it was off the back of players being in different positions all over the field, not dealing with the kickoff, and having to drop out from under our sticks, and they scored off the back of it. So for me, no worries defensively. It's just a case of patching up the errors.
Yeah, and I think that when we did make a mistake, our intensity was up. We looked to rectify that. So, as I say, with regards to the mistakes, listen, they happen in games. Players drop balls, players pass forward, players do get dragged out of position. It happens. The mistake from the kickoff, as you say, towards the end, they happen in games. You've got to learn from them. And I think we were learning during the game as well, because we'd make a mistake and we'd go and start hunting and start making that defence work. And you're right, you don't want to see us being carved open left, right, and centre. I say we've got a process, and once we stick to that process and we just keep going through a game, and it sounds terrible saying grinding out defence, but that's what you do. You keep pushing them, you keep trying to make them try and find room. And once they don't, they start getting a little bit more frustrated. So, listen, I've no worries necessarily going into the Penrith game, but it will be another step or two up from tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really good performances tonight for Saints. I thought Curtis Sironen looked an absolute beast, as best that I've probably seen him in a Saints jersey. And considering this is the start of the year, I thought he was tremendous. I thought Jake Wingfield was good again. I know we give him big raps in the game against Widnes, but he ran hard, he tackled hard, and he's playing himself into a shirt in the 17 each week.
He is, and I'm sure you'll come on to it in a bit, but I'm sure with Joe Batchelor being pictured in a boot at half-time, listen, you don't want players getting injured, and even the teammates won't want them getting injured. But if we've got someone, the next cab off the rank, putting in a performance that means that it's a big decision for Paul Wellens. I mean, you've got Morgan Knowles missing out tonight as well. So James Bell plays himself into a position of, well, I can fit in a couple of different places. You've got Jake Winfield who does the same. You're right about Kurt Sironen. Kurt Sironen looks like one of them signings that you turn around and say, if you stay with us for the next couple of years, he's going to be the best second rower in the comp. Hands down. Absolutely tremendous tonight. I thought, as you say, there's a couple you expect to see Tommy Makinson doing what Tommy Makinson does. You expect to see James Roby pushing us around the park. I thought as well, second half, I think he needs it. I think we've said it. I think Joey Lussick played well tonight. And that's good. It's good for the club. It's good for Joey. And it's good for those around him because it pushes, as we've said, James Roby ahead of him, Taylor Pemberton behind him. It pushes them. It keeps pressure off both them players, Taylor Pemberton and James Roby, that they've got to keep on. Right, we've got to play because he's not doing what we want. I thought Kurt's been man of the match, but I think Joey Lussick deserves big, big plaudits for tonight.
Yeah, and I noticed when he came on in the second half, he was taking the ball in right to the line before the offload. He was making the right decisions at the right times. Obviously, he scored one, scooting from dummy half. He nearly got a second. The worm burner. And then he nearly got another where he just stepped the wrong way into the man rather than into the hole, or he would have got another. And to be fair, I think he was wrongfully chalked off a second try as well for a forward pass, which it looked absolutely fine. Listen, a couple of plays we haven't mentioned. Obviously, Jack Wellesby looked really good, and the commentary team were talking him up as if they want him in the NRL. But Tommy Makinson, it's going to be too late in his career for him to be going over there now. But Tommy Makinson would easily have made any NRL team and scored tries. He's like consummate professional. His levels do not drop. You know what you're going to get every week from him.
I think that's exactly right. His levels don't drop. And when he does, he's one of them. He's like a James Roby-esque, because when his level does drop, you turn around and go, "What's wrong there? What's going on?" Because he is up there. As I say, there's quite a few players who you think he's done all right there. Will Hopoate as well. He's had a good run out, playing it out on the wing. I mean, it wasn't the time to try the Harlem Globetrotters thing in the first half when he starts rolling it round his body.
I liked how they chalked it up as a great piece of skill after he didn't do the simple thing of catching the ball.
Giving it to his forward to run it in. But that's it. We've said about him being a Rolls Royce player. It's good to see him back on the field. Listen, I'm going to big myself up for calling that back line as well. But it's that experience that you need in these big games. John Bennison gets a great run out in the second half. So him getting that run out, he'll be the better for that. But you probably do look at your experience first in these games while we're over there, and then give your other squad players a run out when you get the chance.
Listen, small margins in that game. Obviously, Will Hopoate's try got nailed off in the first half, or chalked off. Joey Lussick's one in the second. The first was obviously, it was a knock-on. And we scored off the back of it. So, because we had the scrum, so Makinson scored before the end of the first half. It could have easily been a 36-0, 36-6 scoreline. The 30-18 probably doesn't tell the level of performance that we put in. And I know the commentary team were talking about all of the St George changes in the second half, and they obviously had a lot of trial players, but we made quite a few changes in that second half as well. But it didn't take us out of our rhythm, which I think is the biggest compliment for the squad that we've got. Even despite putting 6 or 7 changes on, we still looked a threat even late in the game.
I think it's big raps for the coaching and the succession of coaching. I think when you have a clear ethos at the club that's how we play, yes, you've got levels of players who are obviously first choice against your reserves and your academy lads, but they come in and they know their job. Yes, St George made a load of changes and they've got trial and play players or whatever it is where they're going to see if they can get a contract there. But that's it. It's easy when the team loses to turn around and say they had a load of changes. You're right. Did we use all 20? Well, we used 25 who were available.
Yeah.
It's the same basis. But if you've got that ethos at the club, that process, that coaching structure, that everybody knows what they're doing, and you don't go away from that, that's when you get the all-round performance. Yes, there's errors. You can see the little bit of worry when you've got young lads in and they make the odd mistake here and there. You hope the head doesn't kind of drop. So you have a look at, say, Ben Davies trying to catch that one when he probably should have left it for Lewis Baxter. You look at John Bennison where he's trying to trap the ball, but the heads don't go down because they know that round them, they've got good players who are going to do their job and they can trust them in defence to make sure to dig them out of a hole. Yeah, the Ben Davies one then leads to a try, but nothing else gets past us then. So the trust is there, as we say, we've got that ethos at the club that we can put in these reserves and second choices, and they will come in and they know exactly where they should be and they can execute that.
T. Ritson came on. Listen, he's not slow, is he?
No, absolutely not. You know what? When he got that ball out on the wing when he scored his try, he was coming from quite the way back. Usually you see a winger jamming up a little bit more, so it's just a little quick ball out to him. But he was coming in on the burst. And he just moved. I mean, you turn around and you think, I want to see that this season. I want to see him get a little bit of space, a little half a yard off a winger, and just watch him go, because he'll rip people apart doing that.
Like an Exocet missile.
Yes. He can't be called the Barrow Arrow, though, because that's been taken. He needs a new nickname.
The Barrow Arrow Mark II. Now, obviously, this brings us on to next week. If Joe Batch is out, listen, he might have just had a bit of a pain in his foot and they've put him in the boot until they get a chance to x-ray just to rule things out. So, listen, we're not going to rule him out just yet, but if he is out, you're assuming Morgan Knowles is coming back into your 17. Does James Bell move into your second row to replace Batch? Or do you potentially put Will Hopoate at centre, T. Ritson on the wing, and Connie in place of Batch?
I don't think you put Connie in place of Batch. I don't think you move things around that much. I think you literally keep your second rowers as your second rowers. So it's probably, is James Bell just moved ahead of Jake Wingfield? I'm not sure. There's a decision to be made there, a massive decision to be made there, but I don't think you move Connie. I think one of James Bell or Jake Wingfield gets that spot.
Does Curtis Sirenen start? Or is he better impact off the bench?
No, I think... Right, what would I have? Matautia, Sirenen, Knowles. No, I think you start with him because he played so well today. I think you go Matautia, Sirenen, Knowles, and then your other ones. So whether it's James Bell or Jake Wingfield comes off the bench.
So who's on your bench next week then? Louis, Joey Lussick, Jake Wingfield, and Bell.
Parsi.
Oh, Parsi, yeah. So who misses out?
One of Wingfield or Bell. I keep saying this. I'm glad I'm not going to make the choice. Listen, come back to me when we do the Redvee TV show on probably Wednesday or Thursday of next week.
Right. Early call for me.
List.
Early call for me. I'm putting Jake Wingfield ahead of James Bell.
Probably because of his utility value.
Utility value, and I think his level of performance tonight. I thought played himself into a shirt.
Yep,
simple as that.
And I think we said it on Jake's preview as well, that he possibly does get into that 17, just on merit. He gets into that 17. Big call though, big call. But I'll wait until the team lists are out.
Some of the comments from the fan reaction, Kev. Dave Dillon thought we looked slick at times and targeted the big men. And once we get a consistent team together, we'll only get stronger. You've showed at the end. Connie with the usual line rush. Timothy Corrigan, amazing performance from the lads. Luke Mitchell, good win. Needs to cut out the errors, as it's a totally different proposition next week. Dodd and Wells be brilliant. Ben Yoxall, very good run out, seemed to fade after 20, which is what I was saying. And if not for some silly mistakes, would have blown them away in the first half. Still look very professional and well drilled. Matt Webster, great result, solid second half, good completion rate. If we tighten up in defence and cut out the errors, we stand a good chance next week.
Yeah, I think St George had a good completion rate, didn't they? They had a good completion rate as well, so that's good for our defence. I mean, a lot of what's coming in there is pretty much what we're saying, what we've seen as well. So great minds think alike, don't they? Listen, you can't come away too negative. There are negatives to take out of that, but there's a whole host of positives. There's a lot more positives than negatives. And the negatives are things you can fix. They're not negatives where you're thinking, we're not creating. or we've no goal forward, or we've no like defensive rigidity. We're looking at things and going, you know what? It's a drop ball here. It's a wrong read there, but it's single things that these players have proved it in the past that they are at a level higher than they've shown today. So I wouldn't worry about it.
The last comment I'm going to read out is from Sean Bibby, who said, "We don't blow teams away, but we win most games like that. It's good that we have things to work on. 3 errors, 3 tries. But we followed the process yet again. And the thing I'm going to say about that is, it showed in that game the professionalism. When we needed that little bit of a breather towards the end of the first half, and we were taking the 2. The commentary team were laughing because it was a pre-season and we're not just running it. But that helped just get our shape back and our rhythm back. And then right at the end, they were laughing. And I know Alex wanted to run that ball in, and we took the 2 to end the game. But that is memories for me of running that ball out against Salford at the end of last season at the AJ Bell, when the game was over and we lost Regan Grace for the rest of the year on a pointless play. I know things can happen at any time, but why expose yourself to any risk that you don't need to? Just take the 2 points, end the game, and ride off into the sunset and prepare for next week.
Exactly right. There is no point getting an unnecessary risk when you can manage it. And that's a sign of a good team. Listen, people will turn around, and I saw somebody tweet about it being a trial game, a new Texas 2 in a trial game. You know what? We're over. Yeah, we're over in Oz, and we're managing a game. Trial games are there to learn. So you know what? If we've got the foresight in a trial game to take the 2 just before half time, if it comes to a Challenge Cup game where it's close and it's a minute before half time and we want to kick the goal, if it's a league game where we're away from home at Leeds or Hull or Wigan, someone who's going to cause us an issue or 2, whoever that might be, and you take the 2 to keep yourself in it, to put yourself that little bit further ahead. That to me is just, it's game smarts, isn't it? It's 100% the right thing to do. And I like the fact that Joey Lussick stood up to the much taller Alex Walmsley and said, no, we're going for goal. End of story. I like that. That's why I'm giving raps to Joey Lussick today, because he's had a good performance.
And that's because Joey Lussick watched the Redvee TV show. He's watched the previews. He's seen me say that I would stand up to Alex Walmsley. And he's thought, if Dave Lyon can do it, so can I.
Correct.
Right, I think that's a good point to end on. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching our first instant fan reaction, second instant fan reaction of the year, but the first that is proudly supported by Chapel House Motor Company. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you soon.